Hi, for today's Fun Fact Friday and the last video for 2017, I want to talk to you about organizing Schoology courses for student success. As a group, we post a tremendous amount of content to our students through our Schoology courses. And today, I want to share a few best practices for how to keep that content organized so that you and your students can easily find what's been posted. As a goal, I think from the moment I start, this should take no more than 5 minutes for me to completely organize my test course here. And as you can see, it's not thoroughly organized right now as it is. So let's start. The first thing I notice as I'm looking at this test course is that I have a lot of links down here. They don't seem to be in any particular order, and as a rule of thumb, I really shouldn't be asking my students to scroll so far through a list that doesn't seem to have any context for each individual item. Additionally, if I want to archive this course later and refer back to some units, maybe I want to reuse the materials for a unit from one year to the next, I want to be able to really quickly find the resources that were so useful to me this year. So let's just get started. The first thing I notice actually is this very long title for this document. Really, you want to use as short titles as possible, and you really want to make sure that you have some sort of consistent file naming convention. So I'm clicking on that cogwheel, I get up to rename, and I'm actually just going to say December 4 announcements, and then my name, Metzger, just in case they open it later and they can't recall which class it is. So that's going to visually be much more appealing on the page, and also it will make sure that the file name never gets truncated. So let's just pretend that I post these announcements weekly. This would be something I would want to do as an update, but if I'm saving them so that students can go back and reflect on previous announcements, I just want to move this, and let's just say that this belongs in my course information. So quick move there. Notice that I'm using this cogwheel to move these things. My video request is a permanent item that I want students to always have as a resource. So I'm just going to put that there in my resources. And you'll see from the drop down, I have every option available to me. So I'm going to move this one using my drop down here. It's going to go into my unit 1, because this is one of my Newsella items. So I'm just going to click that in there and move it. But I don't have to use the cogwheel. I can also use drag and drop. So I'm going to open up my course documents using this here. So I'm not actually in the folder. I'm just seeing all of its contents. And then I'm going to drag this Beatlemania. It's going to be part of my unit 2. So I just needed to kind of, whoops, didn't need to click on that. I just want it to kind of hang out in here, and I'm going to organize in there in this folder next. So I'm dragging my Beatlemania in here to unit 2. Notice I am hovering a little bit to make sure that they get where they need to be. And I want this to be here for my unit 1. And so I can, again, like I'm saying, just drag my items in there as well. Or use the cogwheel to select move and then select the location. So I could put it in course documents, but I actually know I want it to be inside the nested folder within there. So I don't think that took me very long, and I've gotten rid of all of my dangling links down here and placed them all inside an appropriate folder. So I'm going to go into course documents now because I have some more fine tuning to do in here. A lot of the things I moved from the front page are now just as disorganized, but sitting in a folder here. So another great rule of thumb is to pick kind of your pattern so that it's predictable. I would recommend having actually your newest items on the top. It doesn't require any scrolling for the students to get to the items further down, and it's a predictable pattern. So I've moved my Unit 3 folder. I have this Unit 2 item, and I have this Unit 1 folder. This great article belongs inside Unit 1, so I'm going to hover until it opens and place it in there. And now I've got to figure out what to do with these things here. And that's where I'm going to show you another neat trick. You've probably seen me do this before, but I'm going to hover until I see this dotted line and this plus sign wherever I want the item to be added. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a Unit 2 folder right here because I want it to show up under Unit 3. I'm going to call it Unit 2, and I want to stick with my file convention. So this one I'm just going to call Google Integration. So maybe I did an entire unit on Google integration, right? And there it shows up, and I'm going to simply move these items into my folder. So I hover till it shows up, and I see that little gray bar that appears. Or again, remember we have the cogwheel and I can move this item into my Unit 2 folder that way. So I've really got this very well organized system here. It's pretty clear what contents are where, and I've got them in a nice order. I'm going to go back to my main page. There was one other thing I wanted to show you. If I open up my weekly overview folder, you'll see I only have one item in my weekly overview. And upon clicking the link, I find that this one link is pretty much what I'm going to be using for the whole year. So my question is, does this need to be in a folder? No, it doesn't. If I've only got the one item, there's no need to require people to double click to access it. So what I'm going to do is what I've been doing before, but instead of moving it into a folder, I'm actually going to move it out of the folder. So I'm going to use my cogwheel. I'm going to move it back out, put it under none, because that's this page here, this main page or landing page, some might call it, is the none. It's the first order. And I'm just going to delete my folder. And now nobody has to click twice to access the weekly overview. It's there. I've got everything in a folder. I've renamed a few things. I've shown you a couple different ways to move items around. And I've shown you how to use that little plus sign to add something exactly where you want it to be. So I hope this was helpful. As you can see, a lot can be done quickly once you're familiar with the way to move your items, rename them, and such. I hope you found this video helpful. This is the last one for 2017, so I will see you next year. Have a great week and a great break, everyone.